everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Performance Cafe. It's fabulous to have you here. And this week we carry on where we left off last week. Yes, we are talking Great Resignation and all things related to it. And people have come back to me and said to me, but why are we talking about Great Resignation? We're seeing some statistics that, the tide is turning and, that the Great Resignation might be a thing of the past. I think the Great Resignation might be a thing of the past. I'm not sure that I quite agree. But I think what's important is that we understand why people resigned, why this was important, what we can learn from it, and how we can use it to make our job environments or our working environments better places to be. So to give you an idea, last week we spoke about all the things that made people leave. Poor payment, toxic workplaces. We talked about things like work-life balance, all these kinds of things. So if those were the causes, or if that was how we saw the symptoms play out, what was the causes? What is it that employees really should pay attention to going forward in order to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Well, interestingly enough, and I really love this research, Gallup 2022's research on professionals in the IT working environment, 70% of those employees asked for more human-centric environments. And I think that's actually very, very topical when we talk about the Great Resignation and what went wrong. Now, as you know, I was reading an article on entrepreneur.com. It is called, and I'm going to give you the name, What Employers Should Have Learned from the Great Resignation. And that's basically what I'm talking from. If you'd like to go and read the article, having said that, I am adding sort of some of my own perspective from, practically what I have seen and what I'm seeing in business environments right now. So the article highlights 4 areas. Firstly, they say flexibility is key. They talk about this concept that employees have started realizing that they actually can run their lives better when they have time that they can manage themselves. Oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Sorry, everyone. So what has happened is that we are seeing more and more that employees are asking to work from home, to work remotely, to work from anywhere. So in the article, they also talk about this contributing to work-life balance, in that because they're working from home, they are available to their family members, even if they have to work, that kind of thing. I'm not quite sure that I agree on that point. I've often found myself and my husband have been working remotely for years. I often found it frustrating because you're there, but you're not present. But I do believe that there's another angle that is equally important. When we take a look at employee engagement, how we measure it and how people speak about it, one of the big things is actually autonomy. So when I am allowed to make my own decisions about my work, to work at my own pace at their own time, I feel more in control of what I'm doing. I feel more responsible and accountable for what I'm doing. So from that perspective, flexibility actually helps with autonomy as well. And I think autonomy almost does more for me there than, just being available to friends and family. Work-life balance, which they say has become essential to everyone's life. I agree. With COVID, we really had the big rethink on who am I and what is my brand, what's important to me, how do I live my life, what do I prioritize? We definitely did see sort of like a step back to say, hold on, work is not everything, and even with the Great Resignation, a salary isn't everything because people were prepared to leave for that. I think work-life balance has become something slightly different, and I prefer to call it life integration, because there's not work and life. There is work and community and family and friends. There's hobbies and spiritual practices and a whole lot of other things. Work is actually not half of the equation. It's only a small part of the equation. So I like to think of work-life balance not really related so much to flexibility, but that there is a prioritization And that, and this is something I try to be very, very respectful of. My business is my everything. It's my baby. It's not the everything of those individuals who work for me. They have other priorities. They have other things that are important for them in their lives. Sure, they're fabulous people. They contribute at the office. They do their best, and without them, I'd be lost. But actually, my business is not their only one thing. They have many things. Next up, and here we really get to this concept of the human-centric environment. It says employers must shift their focus. And what I really like about this is a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking to a friend, and we were talking about the concept of human resources. If we think of a resource, we think of something we use. It's like a consumable. You use it, and when you're done, you just get another one. And I think that this concept of human resources comes back from, and many of you will know my soapbox issue with the Industrial Revolution and the dehumanizing effect that had on workplaces. But it's almost that vibe of, oh, come and manage this machine. And when you can't do it anymore, we'll just hire someone else, train them up, and they can manage the machine. So it's kind of about that disposability of humans, that they're just actually another part of the bigger machine, as opposed to vital humans who actually have more in life to deal with than just a machine. And so what I like is, someone said, oh, well, what about a talent? Let me remember the word. It's a talent experience manager instead of a human resources manager, or an employee experience manager. I like that. I prefer to think of a talent success manager, because I think this human resources thing, as I said, it feels like I'm going to use this up and throw it away. Where I think if we talk about a talent experience manager or a talent success manager, we're talking about, how do I make my talent successful? Because every human that is successful in my business makes my business more successful. And I think that that's something we're missing. We're sort of like, well, I'm going to pay you and you just got to do what I say. Well, actually, no, I pay you, you add value. How do we make that work for both of us? And in the article, it does speak about creating win-win situations between employers and employees. And the other important thing as well is that a company that has this orientation will also be better at attracting the right candidates and superior candidates. Next up, support employee development. And, everyone says, oh, but we do train. But what are you training? Just yet another skill. Are you actually developing the human, or just the skills of the human that's best going to serve your purposes? Now, remember, if we're talking about human resources, then updating a skill is fine. If we're talking about talent success, it's not just that skill. It's about a whole person that I can help develop, and that can, at a later point, help me develop others in my business again. So I think there is a thing around development where people go, oh, we don't want to pay. It's like the joke. I'll never forget, I saw it like decades ago, where the CEO and the CFO are standing talking to each other, and the CEO says, we need to develop our people. And the CFO says, but what if they leave? Because then obviously money's been spent that we don't get the return on. And the CEO says, but what if we don't train them and they stay? And I think that, that very vividly brings to the fore that this is what we're doing. We're bringing people in, we're not developing them, we're not giving them accountability, we're not giving them work-life balance, and then we get really upset when they don't actually perform the way we would like them to. Next up, and the last point that they mention, is creating productive conversations. Now, this is really close to my heart. And productive conversations excludes meetings, because those might be productive, if they even are, for work purposes. They're not productive from the human capacity element. These productive conversations are about understanding why does someone have this job? What does it mean to them? How do they feel they add value? What could the business do better? And I think that's often why we find that there's a lack of these conversations in business, is because business is so darn scared that they're not doing it right. But instead of like facing the pain, they step back and go, oh, we'll just train this portion and see if it goes better. Oh, we'll just fix this little thing over here and see if it goes better. Actually, sometimes if we have those open conversations, we can create a really clear roadmap. Because often when we hear these things, all companies do the same things wrong. So we know how to help people fix it. It's about the company putting up their hand and going, okay, we're not doing this well enough. How can you help us to improve that situation? And so that comes to the end of the article. But next week, I think we're going to start talking about, next week, I'm at the HR Works Conference in Cape Town on the 14th of September, where I will be representing Inspired Leadership, for who I'm a channel partner. So next week, you may or may not see something from me. We'll see if there's an impromptu little video that comes out there, maybe a quick interview with someone or whatever the case may be. But if you don't see me next week, you'll see me the week after. And then to come back to our topic of the Great Resignation, we are going to start talking about quiet quitting. Because if you think we're done with the Great Resignation, there's a new version. There's a new kid on the block that might be a little less drastic, but still I think can have great impact and learnings for all organizations. So I hope that you have enjoyed this, that you've enjoyed this insert. I see there are no comments. So I'm off. I'm going to go and get another biscotti and another coffee. I'll see you in a week or so.